My beloved brothers and sisters, many people spend their entire lives chasing money, believing that wealth will finally make them feel safe, satisfied, and at peace. They sacrifice their health, their relationships, and their faith in the hope that one day they will have enough. But how many wealthy people do you see who are truly calm inside? How many rich hearts are actually at rest? Islam never told us that money is evil, but it warned us that when money becomes your goal, your peace becomes your price. The Prophet ﷺ taught us that true richness is not in what you own, but in the contentment of the heart. When your heart is attached to money, your life becomes a race you never win. Real peace does not come from what you earn, it comes from who you trust. And when Allah becomes your priority, your heart finds a calm that no amount of money could ever purchase. Wealth without contentment creates constant anxiety. Wealth without contentment creates a restless heart that is never at ease, no matter how much is accumulated. When money becomes the measure of success and the foundation of security, the heart begins to live in constant tension. Every gain produces temporary relief, but it is quickly replaced by new worry. Worry about losing it, worry about needing more, worry about not keeping up. The mind becomes occupied with numbers, comparisons, plans and fears, and the soul is slowly deprived of stillness. Allah did not create the human heart to rest in possessions. He created it to rest in Him. When wealth is pursued without gratitude and reliance on Allah, it becomes a burden rather than a blessing. The more you hold, the more you fear losing. The more you gain, the more you feel you must protect. This is the anxiety of attachment. It grows silently, convincing you that peace lies just beyond the next achievement, the next promotion, the next milestone. But that moment never arrives, because peace was never meant to be found in ownership. Without contentment, wealth becomes a test of the heart, exposing how fragile happiness becomes when it is built on what can change at any moment. As wealth increases without contentment, the heart begins to live in constant comparison. Someone always has more. Someone always seems ahead. Someone always appears more secure. The eyes stop appreciating what they have and start measuring what they lack. This comparison creates dissatisfaction that no amount of money can satisfy. The mind becomes restless, the chest tightens, and joy feels unreachable. Even moments of success are poisoned by the fear of being surpassed. The soul becomes tired of chasing, yet afraid to stop. This is the anxiety of abundance without gratitude. When contentment is absent, wealth magnifies insecurity instead of calming it. A person may own many things, yet feel owned by them. Their peace becomes dependent on maintaining a lifestyle rather than nurturing the heart. They cannot relax because their sense of worth is tied to what they possess. In such a state, wealth does not serve the person serves wealth. Wealth without contentment also creates emotional instability. A good day in business brings confidence and happiness. A bad day brings fear and despair. The heart rises and falls with financial outcomes. This emotional dependency traps the soul in constant fluctuation. The believer, however, was created for steadiness. Allah calls the heart toward balance, to thank Him in ease and trust Him in hardship. Without contentment, that balance disappears. Money becomes the source of emotional highs and lows, replacing faith with fear. This internal instability slowly drains the soul. The person becomes easily disturbed, easily stressed, easily shaken. Even moments of comfort are haunted by the question, what if this disappears? This is not peace, this is survival inside luxury. When contentment is missing, wealth also damages relationships. Trust weakens, suspicion grows. People become either competitors or threats. Love becomes conditional, conversations become calculated. Even generosity feels strategic rather than sincere. The heart loses its softness because it is constantly guarding its interests. Anxiety grows because the soul no longer knows who is sincere and who is not. Wealth was meant to strengthen human bonds through generosity and compassion, but without contentment, it often does the opposite, isolating the heart inside invisible walls. Another burden of wealth without contentment is the endless hunger for control. Money creates the illusion of power, the illusion that everything can be managed, purchased, prevented, or fixed. But life constantly reminds us that many things remain beyond our control. When the heart depends on money for security, every uncertainty becomes a threat. Illness, loss, age, change, and death all become terrifying realities because no amount of wealth can shield the soul from them. This fear produces deep anxiety. The person may smile outwardly, but inwardly they are bracing for what they cannot stop. Only faith can release the heart from this burden. Contentment transforms wealth from a source of anxiety into a source of peace. A content heart sees money as a tool, not an identity. It earns with gratitude and spends with wisdom. It is not shaken by loss nor intoxicated by gain. Its joy comes from Allah, not from numbers. When contentment enters the heart, wealth stops controlling the soul, fear loosens, comparison fades, peace settles. Without contentment, no amount of money feels enough. With contentment, even little feels abundant. This is the secret Allah teaches the believer. True richness is not in accumulation, it is in the heart that rests with trust. And when the heart rests with trust, anxiety has no home. Chasing money makes you forget what truly matters. Chasing money slowly reshapes the heart until it no longer recognizes what it was created to love. At first, the pursuit seems harmless, the desire to provide, to succeed, to feel secure. But over time, the chase begins to consume the mind and redirect the soul. Priorities quietly change. Time becomes money. Relationships become interruptions. Worship becomes postponed. Reflection becomes rare. The heart that once sought meaning begins to chase numbers. And in that pursuit, what truly matters starts to fade from view. You may still speak of faith, family, and values, but the rhythm of your life tells a different story. Your attention is divided. Your energy is scattered. Your presence becomes thin. Without realizing it, you trade moments of connection for moments of calculation. The cost of this trade is invisible at first, but it accumulates quietly until one day you feel a hollowness inside that wealth cannot fill. As money becomes the central focus, the heart begins to forget the fragility of life. You live as if tomorrow is guaranteed. You postpone conversations that matter. You delay forgiveness. You ignore the needs of the soul. The pursuit creates a tunnel vision that makes everything else feel secondary. Even time with loved ones becomes scheduled between obligations. You are physically present but emotionally absent. You hear words but your mind is elsewhere. And slowly, the most precious parts of life, love, sincerity, peace, worship, begin to feel distant. This is not because you stopped valuing them, but because the chase trained your heart to value something else more. Chasing money also distorts your understanding of success. You begin measuring your worth by productivity instead of character, by income instead of integrity, by status instead of sincerity. The heart becomes restless because no achievement ever feels complete. There is always another target, another comparison, another fear of falling behind. This restlessness steals the sweetness of every moment. Even when you succeed, your mind is already racing toward the next goal. You forget to be grateful. You forget to pause. You forget to breathe. The pursuit also numbs your spiritual awareness. The heart that once turned to Allah in quiet moments now feels too busy to slow down. Du'as become rushed, prayers become mechanical, reflection becomes rare. You still believe, but the connection weakens because your heart is elsewhere, and when the connection weakens, so does your inner peace. Over time, chasing money trains the soul to fear loss more than it values meaning. You become anxious about outcomes, obsessed with security, and afraid of uncertainty. That fear follows you everywhere. It steals your sleep. It burdens your thoughts. It darkens your joy. You may own much, yet feel unsafe inside. The most painful part is that chasing money often makes you forget the temporary nature of this world. You invest heavily in what you cannot keep and neglect what you will carry with you forever. You polish what will fade and starve what will endure. The soul grows tired from this imbalance. But the heart remembers when you slow down. It remembers when you return to what matters: faith, family, sincerity, gratitude, kindness, and presence. And in that return, something gentle awakens. Because when the chase ends, clarity begins, and what truly matters quietly comes back into focus. Real richness lives in the heart, not the bank. Real richness is not measured by what fills your bank account, but by what fills your heart. A person may own many properties, hold impressive titles, and command large sums of money, yet still feel empty, restless, and insecure inside. Another may live simply with few possessions and still walk through life with calm, dignity, and deep contentment. This difference reveals the truth that wealth of the heart and wealth of the world are not the same. The heart was created to find its satisfaction in Allah, not in accumulation. When the heart connects to Him, it becomes rich in peace, gratitude, trust, and hope. That richness does not rise and fall with the market, nor is it threatened by loss. It remains steady because its source is eternal. A heart that knows its Lord is never truly poor, even if the hands hold little. When richness lives in the heart, a person is no longer a slave to outcomes. He works, strives, and earns with sincerity, but his inner peace does not depend on how much he gains or loses. He is not intoxicated by success nor crushed by setbacks. His emotions are balanced because his identity is not tied to numbers. This balance creates freedom. He is free from anxiety, free from constant comparison, and free from the exhausting fear of not having enough. The world becomes lighter because his heart is no longer carrying the weight of proving its worth through possessions. A rich heart knows how to be grateful. Gratitude transforms what is small into abundance. When the heart appreciates what it has, it stops obsessing over what it lacks. This appreciation protects joy. It allows the believer to live fully in the present instead of constantly chasing the future. Even ordinary moments feel meaningful because the heart is awake to blessings. Gratitude builds an inner wealth that cannot be stolen. Richness of the heart also nurtures generosity. When a person feels full inside, he gives freely without fear of losing. He shares time, care, kindness, and resources because he trusts that Allah is his provider. This generosity deepens relationships and softens the soul. The heart expands, and with it, a sense of purpose and peace. A heart that is truly rich does not envy. It celebrates the success of others without bitterness. It understands that Allah distributes according to wisdom, not favoritism. This understanding removes jealousy and replaces it with acceptance. The heart remains light because it is not burdened by resentment or rivalry. Richness in the heart brings emotional stability. The believer is not shaken by every difficulty. He endures trials with patience and faces uncertainty with courage. His calm becomes a refuge for those around him. People feel safe in his presence because he is not chaotic inside. Such a heart also finds joy in simple things. A quiet prayer, a sincere conversation, a peaceful morning, a moment of reflection. Happiness becomes accessible, not distant. Life feels meaningful without needing extravagance. Real richness gives dignity. A person no longer begs for approval or validation. He walks with self-respect because his worth is anchored in faith. When the heart is rich, the world loses its grip. Possessions become tools, not masters. Money becomes a means, not an identity. And this is the secret the Prophet ﷺ taught. True wealth is the wealth of the soul. When you trust Allah, you stop fearing the future. Trusting Allah transforms the way you look at tomorrow. The future no longer appears as a threat filled with unknown dangers, but as a journey guided by the one who controls every outcome. Fear of the future grows when the heart believes it must manage everything on its own. But the moment you place your trust in Allah, that burden lifts. You remember that your life is not unfolding randomly. Every event, delay, and turn is written with wisdom. This realization calms the anxious heart. You still plan, you still work, you still strive, but your inner state changes. You are no longer desperate for control. You are no longer haunted by what if. Instead, you move forward with quiet confidence, knowing that whatever awaits you has already been chosen by Allah with mercy. When trust enters the heart, worry begins to lose its power. The mind that once raced through worst-case scenarios slowly learns to rest. You stop rehearsing disasters that may never come. You stop carrying tomorrow's burdens today. Your sleep becomes deeper. Your breath becomes slower. Your heart becomes lighter. This is not because life suddenly becomes easy, but because your soul becomes anchored. Trust in Allah also reshapes your relationship with uncertainty. Instead of fearing the unknown, you begin to see it as a place where Allah's plan is unfolding. You understand that what you do not yet see is not dangerous, it is simply hidden. And what is hidden is still held by Allah. This awareness builds courage. You walk into new chapters without trembling because you know you are not walking alone. The believer who trusts Allah does not panic over delays. He recognizes that delay is not denial. It is preparation. It is protection. It is alignment. The heart becomes patient because it knows that timing belongs to Allah. You stop comparing your timeline to others. You stop rushing outcomes. You stop blaming yourself for what has not yet arrived. Trust also protects you from regret. You no longer torture yourself with the past, wondering how life might have turned out. You believe that whatever unfolded was necessary for your growth. Even pain becomes meaningful because it brought you closer to Allah. When trust is present, the future loses its power to terrify. It becomes simply another chapter written by the most merciful, and the heart rests in that certainty. This trust does not make you passive. It makes you peaceful. You move with purpose but without panic. You strive but without desperation. You hope but without fear. And this is the freedom that trust in Allah gives, a future that no longer controls your heart. Peace comes from faith, not from finances. Peace does not enter the heart through wealth, possessions, or financial success. It enters through faith. A person may secure every comfort the world offers and still lie awake at night burdened by anxiety, fear, and dissatisfaction. Another may live simply with very little and sleep with a calm heart because his trust is anchored in Allah. This contrast reveals the truth that peace is not a product of circumstances but of connection. When the heart relies on Allah, it finds stability that no financial condition can provide. Faith gives the soul a foundation that does not collapse when the world shifts. Money may change your situation, but faith transforms your state of being. Faith creates an inner sanctuary that remains untouched by loss, pressure, or uncertainty. When a believer prays, remembers Allah, and surrenders his worries to Him, his heart becomes guarded. Stress may knock, but it does not stay. Fear may whisper, but it does not rule. This spiritual protection is priceless. No account balance can purchase the tranquility that settles into a heart that trusts Allah's wisdom and mercy. Finances often bring responsibility, pressure, and comparison. They create concern about the future and attachment to outcomes. Faith, on the other hand, releases the heart from this weight. It teaches the believer that provision comes from Allah alone. This knowledge frees him from obsessing over control. He works with sincerity, but his heart is not enslaved by results. He understands that what reaches him was written, and what passes him was never meant for him. Peace rooted